Hey, this is Board with Life News for October 21st. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm just going to run down my top 10 games being released at Essen this year. Hey, I'm Chris, and this is Board with Life News. Essen is actually Essen Spiel, but it is in Essen, Germany, every year, and it's the biggest board game convention in the entire world. There are hundreds and hundreds of games being released this year there. And I'm just going to hit on kind of my top 10. I'm going to keep all of the explanations of the games as short as I can so we can keep this around 6 minutes like normal. And yeah, let's get right into it. My number 10 game coming out at Essen this year is called Chiddy Monsters. It's by Seiji Kanai. He's the designer of Love Letter. It's another small card-based game. I wouldn't define it as a micro game because it's a little bigger than Love Letter, but it's a very small game and it's kind of a wagering card game. And the theme is great. Basically, you play a wizard who is placing bets on like monster fighting in an arena. So that looks like a lot of fun, and it's coming out at Essen this year. Number 9 is called Trains and Stations. It's designed by Eric M. Lang. He's one of the most prolific American game designers, done a ton of stuff. And Trains and Station is a train game that has dice in it. And there are lots of custom, really cool dice. It kind of looks like he's taking some of the ideas that he explored in Couriers and applying them to kind of a train board game. It looks like a lot of fun, kind of like light strategy game. So yeah, well, I hope that's good. Next up is SOS Titanic. SOS Titanic is a cooperative card game where you are basically, there's a board that is the Titanic, and there are different sections of the Titanic, like the bow or any of that. And there are different stacks of cards for each section. And sections can break off, and you lose all the cards in that section. So you're frantically trying to arrange cards from the Titanic onto lifeboats before those sections break off and all those cards drown, I guess. So yeah, it looks like a nice, fun, cooperative card game. Next up is Legacy, the Testament of Duke de Cressy. Whatever. Basically, this is a game that has a great theme where basically you're trying to manage your legacy. So there are 3 game rounds and each one is a generation. And you're trying to marry people off or gain influence or become a duke or a noble or whatever. And you're basically managing prestige, income, and friends. And for example, you could lose prestige but gain income if your daughter married someone who was infamous but rich. So it looks great. I love the way the theme looks like it plays out in the game. So definitely looking forward to that one. Number 6 is the game Lewis and Clark. Obviously, this game you're competing to try to be the first exploration team to reach the Pacific. It's got a cool hand management mechanic where basically to use a card, you have to combine it with another card, which means that you can't use the card you combined it with for a certain period of time. So you've got to kind of dictate whether you want to sacrifice that card or not. I love the cover art. It's so bright and vibrant and really cool. So looks like a fun theme, fun game. What would a top 10 list be without a Cthulhu or Lovecraft game on it? It would be nothing. That's the answer. But this is number 5, A Study in Emerald. This is designed by Martin Wallace, who is another very prolific game designer. He did Age of Steam and A Few Acres of Snow, amongst a ton of other games. It's based on Neil Gaiman's short story that combined Sherlock Holmes with kind of the Lovecraft mythos. It's really cool. The game takes place after the dark ones have risen, or the deep ones have risen, and the world has gone to, complete chaos. And it's a deck building game with some bidding mechanics, as well as some area control mechanics built into it. It looks like a whole bunch of mechanics, so hopefully they all meld well together, but it's a deck building game at its core. Great theme, definitely looking forward to that one. And number 4 on my list is Glass Road. This is designed by Uwe Rosenberg, who's, as you know, one of my very favorite designers. It looks like it's taking the resource style from Ora et Labora, and kind of it's the next iteration of that. Also, one of the interesting things is instead of like placing workers to pick up resources, you have a handful of workers that are cards, and you play those to get the resources. But if somebody else plays the same worker card, you both get less. So you kind of have to do that management where you're seeing what people are going to want to be getting and adapt that into your strategy. But now it's kind of all hidden. So that's pretty interesting, and we'll see how that plays out. Number 3, I've talked about on the show before. It's Tash-Kalar, Arena of Legends, designed by Vlada Shavatil. He's the guy that designed Galaxy Trucker, amongst a whole bunch of other games. It's a card game where you're summoning creatures, much in the theme of most, or a whole lot of card games. But the interesting thing about this one is you have to arrange your cards in certain patterns in order to summon those creatures. And then you'll have cards that allow you to move your cards or your opponent's cards and things like that. So it looks like a really fun, themed, well-themed card game. So yeah, that's Tash-Kalar. Number 2, I've also talked about on the news before, and it's Caverna the Cave Farmers. It's another Uwe Rosenberg game on this list, but man, do I love that guy. And this is the sequel to Agricola. It adds caves into it, but yeah, I mean, all I needed was sequel to Agricola, and I'm sold because that's one of my all-time favorite games. So yeah, Caverna the Cave Farmers. And my number 1 most anticipated game coming out at Essen this year is Amerigo. Amerigo is designed by Stefan Feld, who I am all about that dude lately. I am on a big Stefan Feld kick. And basically the game, you're trying to discover lands, secure trade routes, and build settlements. But the really exciting thing about this game is Stefan Feld is using a dice tower mechanic. It's not a dice tower, it's like a resource cube tower, where you have actions that are dictated by cubes, colored cubes, and you drop them into the top of a dice tower, and what comes out and in what order dictates the moves you're allowed to use. So that's a really interesting thing, and I just really want to see what Stefan Feld does with that idea. So there you go. Those are my top 10 most anticipated games for Essen 2013. All right, I'm not going to do a Kickstarter corner this week, and I picked a really short question just so I can keep this going, because I'm sure that I'm already probably over time with 10 games, but I'll get right into the question. Tinmaya asks via YouTube, would you marry or at least get in a serious relationship with a non-gamer? My answer is certainly yes. I'm currently in a serious relationship with a non-gamer. While it would be great if she was really into games, for example, Donald and Nikki are married and they both really love games and they play games together all the time, and that seems really nice. But I share a lot of other hobbies with my girlfriend, and she's very supportive of me playing games, and we have time apart, and that's part of a healthy relationship. And yeah, so I like spending time with her. She plays games sometimes, but certainly isn't the one that's trying to get games to the table. I think as long as you've got kind of a respect for each other's hobbies and interests, it's totally fine if the other person doesn't necessarily share them. So yeah, that's how I'm answering that. Okay, we got an Arkham Horror bit coming out tomorrow, keeping with our sort of Halloween-y theme. We've got lots of new stuff. We're hard at work on our Halloween special, so make sure you subscribe, because we're going to have other videos that are coming out periodically throughout the month that aren't necessarily on our Monday, Tuesday schedule. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.